Great day for a boat ride. How about this on the Hudson? A beautiful morning. It's 69 degrees, a little bit crisp out there, but the temperatures are going up, and it's going to be a really nice day. Tonight might be a different story. Megan's coming up. In a stroke of flip-flopping, the Albany logjam unraveled. Now both sides are claiming victory, while many voters are saying they have paid the price for the New York State Senate showdown. Joining us this morning with his insight is Errol Louis, the host of the morning show on WWRL and political columnist for the New York Daily News. It's hard to keep track as to what's happening day to day, but Pedro Espada was with the Democrats, now with the Republicans, and now he's somewhere in between. What's going on up there?
Yeah, I think we may have seen something that's unusual even for New York politics, a quadruple cross. Double cross the Democrats, then double cross the Republicans, and we're not yet at the end of the flip-flops, I suspect, but yeah, Pedro Espada, he's unquestionably a winner in all of this. He got a lot more power for himself, a $40,000 raise, a nice title, and he's a freshman senator.
Now you're saying now it's helpful to him, but what happens come election time for him?
Well, election time, that'll be up to the voters of the Bronx, but I think he's got bigger problems than that, frankly. The fact that many of his colleagues are very, very upset with him is something he can overcome. The fact that he's got 2 investigations going against him is not something he has a lot of control over. The Attorney General is looking into some allegations that really date back to 2000, when 5 employees of his nonprofit organization pleaded guilty to taking money from the nonprofit to use on his campaign, and then their legal bills were paid by the nonprofit, which is a real no-no unless they've paid it back. And so there's a lot of confusion about that. And then there's this question about whether or not he actually lives in the Bronx, his driver's license, and there's other indications that suggest that he lives in Mamaroneck up in Westchester County. The Bronx District Attorney is looking into that.
Governor David Paterson appointed a lieutenant governor this week, Richard Ravish. Will this hold up in court? Because there's question as to whether it was constitutional for him to do that.
I'm pretty sure it's not going to, actually.
It's not going to.
I can't see how. It's an empty space there. There's really just an open space. It's not clear. The governor has the power to fill vacancies in a very general sense, but the Constitution is really silent about what to do about this very important office. It's almost inconceivable that a court would allow a governor to just step in and fill on his own what he wants to do. The Attorney General has said that he doesn't really read the law that way. The real question, though, is whether the courts are going to give the legislature a roadmap and say, that's not the way to do it, but here's the right way to do it. Or if they just throw it out, in which case New York will continue to have a problem.
But will this put the state into court hearings and so on and so forth, and will this be a long legal fight? I mean, what do you think? It will
be a legal fight, but keep in mind the whole point of having the lieutenant governor, what David Paterson said, and the truth of the situation is that he wanted him to be able to help break the deadlock in the Senate. Now that the deadlock is resolved, whether or not the lieutenant governor is upheld in court, whether or not Dick Ravitch gets to serve in the way that was intended, will be a little bit less crucial than it was just a few days ago.
There were a number of calls for the senators not to be paid during that chaos, and that was one of the votes that came up this week.
Oh, that's right. In fact, they were set to not be paid, and after they got everything together, the only vote that they actually voted down on the floor was something that the controller had wanted passed. So that was their way of kind of getting back at Tom DiNapoli, letting him know that they didn't appreciate having their paychecks stopped. It's worth noting, though, that these folks, they actually did a lot of work over the last month. It's not quite accurate to say that they didn't do any work. It's just that they didn't pass any laws. They spent all of their time on politics instead of on getting the legislation passed.
What happens from here? Who's in charge?
Well, right now it looks like Malcolm Smith is in charge, and that he's going to have a bit of a power struggle with John Sampson. They are the 2 leaders who I think are going to be contending, along with Pedro Espada, for control over very important pieces of Senate business. And the Republicans have said, you haven't seen the end of the faction fighting. I think they're probably right about that.
What role will Espada have going forward?
You know, it really remains unclear. For so long, the Senate president and the majority leader, 2 titles that for most people probably don't mean anything, have been combined in one person. Now they're split apart, and they're 2 people who don't necessarily have the same political interests.
They need the Espada vote.
Well, they certainly need his vote just as a senator, for sure. But then there's a question. I mean, look, there's 1,600-odd, I think, employees of the state Senate. Who gets to pick them? Who gets to hire them? That's what these folks really care about. Who gets to spend the $100 million budget of the state Senate?
Much more drama to come, I guess.
Yes, indeed.
Errol Louis, thanks so much. Great to see you this morning.
You too.
Stay with CBS 2 and WCBS-TV.com for more on the Albany chaos and the legal battles that will follow in the next couple of days.
All right, Mary, thank you very much. Well, stormy weather could scuttle NASA's plans to launch the Space Shuttle Endeavour this evening.